Stacy, what's new? What's noteworthy? What is exciting right now?
New, noteworthy, and exciting. There's so many things that are new, noteworthy, and exciting. I feel like every day we have something that's a little bit new, noteworthy, and exciting. Am I wrong?
Yes, and I pray that never changes.
Oh, I actually I do pray that never changes. But I actually am going to tell a story that we literally just talked about this morning. So, for those of you who are listening, yes, Justin and I are friends and we're business partners, and he is also my coach. And in part of growing our business, it comes in doing a lot of things that we're not really good at yet. A lot of things. Hey, just in case you're wondering, we're amazing coaches. We're really confident in our coaching ability. Growing on social media, new to both of us. Putting ourselves out there and being a little bit more vulnerable, new to both of us. Canva, PDFs, you know, all the things that Justin does on the back end that I couldn't even explain is new to us. So we're talking this morning of how naturally people are drawn to certain things on the internet, right? Like what's visually appealing. And I give Justin a really is a hard time the right way to say it? Like,
I would say that's the right way to say it.
yeah, I give Justin a hard time in such a playful way, and it comes back to the beginning of our relationship when he was just my coach, and I didn't understand why he had his shirt off all the time. And so I give him a hard time, and we know that if I put any picture on the internet that has you shirtless on any post, we are going to have so much more engagement on that post. If it is us rolling jujitsu or you shirtless, we just know that there's going to be more engagement. And so part of that was talking about how do we use my assets to our benefit. And so it was a conversation this morning of like, hey, in this process that I'm not the most confident in my body, but confident in my abilities. So I did something today that, I mean, other than we were training together as a group last July, I don't think I've ever done. And so today, my new noteworthy growth moment that will be shared on the internet later this afternoon was I trained solely in a sports bra and my workout pants today. Doing deadlifts like a beast, by the way. But in a gym full of just men, I was like, just go ahead, girl. Take it off. Just going to work out in a sports bra and knock this out. And for some people, that might be totally fine. But, my assets take up a lot of real estate and they kind of get in the way. So I'm a little bit self conscious of them sometimes. But it was a growth moment. And so, since that was literally just an hour ago, and I'm going to share stories that I've never shared before, that's what I'm bringing to our podcast this morning. A little bit of vulnerability to start our day.
Nothing like a little bit of sprinkle of vulnerability in there to get the people going, right?
Well,
I mean, thank God you weren't doing bench press.
oh my God. So I also joke because of my personality. Like, I don't think I've ever been hit on, like, ever in my entire life. And then it goes back to the bench press of, remember that day that guy asked, he's like, hey, do you need me to be your spotter? And there was like 75 pounds on the bar. I was like, oh, that's so nice of him. And you're like, no, he was hitting on you. I'm like, that's 75 pounds. That's freaking stupid. Who needs help with 75 pounds? Because my personality usually leads to people not coming to talk to me. It doesn't matter, what the cleavage assets are. The personality is still bigger. So yeah, vulnerability and cleavage is how we start the day.
Hey, just sounds like a Tuesday to me. Sounds like a Tuesday to me.
It is your Tuesday because you're with me every freaking Tuesday.
Well, in
Oh,
other also exciting news, what I
tell me.
sent you right before this, we decided to kick this off was receiving our employee identification number today. So we're officially official according to the government. Because if you can pay taxes, then they recognize you as a business. So we are officially Fortify Health Coaching LLC, registered in the great state of Texas. So, yeehaw.
You do know that every time you send me a text with something new and noteworthy, like that my heart just a little bit. It used to be we just sent each other memes and like funny stuff that would make each other laugh. And now, as we pray that it never changes, like, especially if I get a text from you first thing in the morning, I'm waiting for a piece of information that just is about to change our lives. That first text from you in the morning, because you've been up for a couple hours before I have, and I know that you've been working, is that what is he about to drop on me like right now? And I don't want it to change. It's like I've got coffee in one hand and my heart in another, and was like, how is our life about to change right now? And I'm so here for it. Oh, we also have a logo. So we are not only an official business in the great state of Texas, and like, that's crazy to say that we're business owners together in a state that I don't live in yet.
Facts.
That's crazy. For those of you listening, I say yet and on purpose, because if you want something, you build it first. You just start a business in another state and then move your whole family there. So you could have cows chasing you down the street, because that's my vision and dream, with sourdough and butter and a little farm. We have a logo. Like, we got a lot of business stuff done this week. Like, we're super fit. We might almost have hats and t-shirts, and oh my gosh, just changing people's lives in a million ways.
Well, if there's anybody out there listening that has a little slick hookup for apparel and doesn't require some crazy minimum order, then we wouldn't be mad at it. We wouldn't be mad at it.
We wouldn't be mad at it. What else is new and noteworthy before we get into our topic today in your world?
Nothing crazy. Did the second CrossFit Open workout last week, 24.2, which was rowing and deadlifts and double unders, and that was fun. And so if you're not in the CrossFit world, you wouldn't know this, but Dave Castro, the guy who's in charge of creating, you know who Dave Castro is.
I know. I was at Dave Castro's ranch on accident and didn't even know he was Dave Castro.
Didn't even know who he was. Didn't even know you knew Dave before he was Dave. No. So he always releases these very obscure clues on his Instagram as to what the next workout is going to be. Mm-hmm. And so the first clue was just a picture of a mushroom. And the workout was single arm dumbbell snatches and burpees over the dumbbell. Just to give you an idea. Okay. The second one was a shuffleboard piece. Like, you could barely see it because it came in the view. It actually looks like it was a pawn, like a chess pawn, and then a shuffleboard piece came and just knocked it over. That was it. It was like a 5-second video. That was the clue. I have no idea why, like, how that related to rowing, deadlifts, and double unders. I don't know. Anyway, this week's clue is a video of I'm assuming his dog eating a raw chicken leg. Like, literally, it's just you can just see the chicken leg in the video. The dog comes up and just like literally eats it right there in the video. And it's very like, if you don't like the sound of chewing or smacking or that ASMR bothers you, then don't watch the video, because it's very like the dog is like getting after it, just eating the chicken leg. And so people are like trying to guess what he's talking about. Like, I'm assuming it means like your legs are going to be dead. So that probably means thrusters. That probably means some type of squatting or lunging, right? That type of thing. So that's always fun to try to interpret.
Is that his gray pit bull? Is it still a little pitty?
Yes, but it's not little, right? But
well, he's not little, but he's the sweetest thing ever. Like, literally, that dog loved Isaiah up. Like, well, every dog loves Isaiah up, but you see this pit bull and you're like, is he friendly? Oh my gosh. Like, the coolest dog ever. Coolest dog ever.
We'll see on Thursday what the coolness of this next one's about. But
I love that. First of all, I love that he just messes with people and like has everybody so engaged. I mean, it's not the same thing as Taylor Swift leaving Easter eggs, but this would be like the CrossFit equivalent to an Easter egg, getting people to guess like what is coming next and getting people engaged in it. I love this. Oh, I'm so here for this. Well done, Dave Castro. Well done. Well done. I love it.
It's so obscure too that you would never be able to like guess it. Like, I mean, just the fact that that's a chicken leg just insinuates legs, that type of thing. But like it's just so it's so crazy. And then when he like explains it, it's even like there's no way somebody would have
Got it.
deciphered this. So
Okay,
anyway,
cool. Well, let us pick up to where we left off last week on taking aim. And if I remember correctly, if my memory serves me, where we left was ordering your chaos. But I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, we got to the point of you will be wrong. But for those people who didn't get to listen to the last episode, can you give us a 2-minute recap? If they're like, hey, I'm not going back and listening to that, you just catch me up because I ain't about that. First of all, go back and listen to the episode. Okay. I know you don't want to. Just pause right here. Go back. You'll be thankful that you did. You're arguing with me right now and be like, what does she know? Just trust me. Trust me. Go back and listen. And if you're still not listening right now and you're just going to finish this episode, Justin's going to make your life right for you. 2 minutes. Give him an overview.
Sure. So in the last episode, we talked about what we're aiming at, or how you would take aim at something, and why you would take aim at something. And the base of it was, if you don't know what you're aiming at, you have no reason to organize. You have no reason to make a plan. You have no reason to get after it and pursue things. And so you just end up kind of, walking about, right, in a very theoretical way. You just end up just doing things that don't really add up to much, but wasted energy. And so we wanted to encourage people to aim at something. And we kind of talked about how our aim is to have sovereignty, is to increase our level of sovereignty in our lives, me and Stacy. And so what that came down to was the amount of freedom we have, whether it's financial freedom or personal freedom or relational freedom or whatever it is, like doing what you want, who you want, where you want, all that kind of stuff, and creating this business around this idea that we can cast that vision of sovereignty. Like, what does it look like for Stacy and her family? What does it look like for me and my family and our families combined? And so that led us into what were the principles that would help to take aim, or things that would help you to pursue your aim, right? So that came down to no 0 days, which means don't let your momentum die. Like, do something, even if you have to do the very smallest version of your thing, do something. Commit to something, which means commit to something. No, it means pick something and go for it, right? It means like, don't waver on your standard, essentially, right? You can change the behavior, but you don't waver on the standards. That's what you're committed to. And then being perfectly okay with being imperfect is the yin yang thing, is the chaos and clarity, right? You're going to have, the chaos and order, right? You're going to have order and you're going to have chaos, and you have to be okay that is the balance that life gives us. And the job of being perfect is already taken, right? That's Jesus. That was the only perfect person to ever exist and that will ever exist. And so you don't have to worry about being that, because you will be wrong. And there is yin and yang in your situation. So if you can accept both of those things, you end up living a little bit of a better life. Does that about sum it up?
That about sums it up. And the jury is still out on which one of us is chaos and which one of us is order. I did do an independent study that involved asking 3 people. So these were very official results as to which one of us was a little bit of chaos and a little bit of order. And I don't think anybody will be surprised that Justin got voted most orderly and I got voted the one with the most glitter.
I love how you inserted glitter instead of chaos. That's
Did you like that? Did you?
good little add in there.
It was a little reframing there. It was a little reframing.
I'm not mad at it. Look, one of us is organized, one of us is on time. Okay.
That's abundantly true.
We say it all the time.
In the best way possible. So if we're going to pick up today, I think it's the great place to start. Not that it's my favorite topic to talk about. You will be wrong. Not you will be wrong. I mean, sometimes you will be wrong. And sometimes I'm going to be wrong. But in the context of what we're talking about in helping people take aim, when we were talking about this personally, when we were deciding, like, hey, let's bring this conversation to the podcast, it's one of the things that people hesitate to commit to something, which means commit to something and do it, is because such the fear of being wrong. And one of the things that you've said lately that I love, and I'm not sure if you came up with it or where we got it from, but it's something we've definitely adopted, is feeling wrong feels the same way as feeling right. And I want you to talk about that a little bit more, because we have had conversations personally, like, we've been wrong about some stuff. I mean, we've been wrong about the same things. We've been
Mhm.
wrong about different things. And so if we've been wrong when we thought we were really right and are still moving forward, how do you want to add to this to give people something tangible in being okay and being wrong and what that really feels like?
I think that if you're shooting for a life where you're never wrong, or you're wrong the least amount, you're highly guarded against being wrong, making errors, then first of all, you're going to have a vast lack of imagination, because you cannot see something that is not there without understanding that you may be wrong. Imagination is literally dreaming up something, creating something that does not currently exist. So when Steve Jobs was thinking of what Apple was going to be, or what the iPhone might be, or whatever it is, he had to use imagination to do that. And so he was thinking in error, right? Because the definition of error is to see things not in reality, not as they are. And so again, I know we think about those two things as being wrong and having imagination. We think that's like a negative and a positive, but what I'm getting at here is this: making room for the wrong is actually what overall increases your tendency to be more right. And that doesn't necessarily mean objectively right, like the sky is blue, but to be more right in the rhythms and the way that you move throughout your life. You should be okay with being wrong and accept it quickly and accept it lightly and go, all right, I was wrong. Cool. Next thing. And so when you can do that, and again, you don't want to do that about major things in your life. Obviously, you don't want to just go along and make decisions willy-nilly, and everybody knows that, right? So I don't have to say that obvious caveat of, this is not financial or medical advice, right?
Ooh, good job. We didn't give our disclaimer that we're not doctors or therapists. We don't play them on the internet. Anything that we say and do cannot be used in, anything actually against us, because these are the rules and bylaws we've made for our friendship. And if you're here, then welcome to our table. Nothing we say or do can be used against us if you want to, have access to us in any way.
So without belaboring the wrongness too much, I think that being wrong is an important part of learning how to be right.
Mm.
There's a great book out there called Being Wrong that I'm actually reading right now. So it's the whole study of error and how we make error, and like our feelings about it and things like that, because it is a universal thing. Like Stacy being right about how long it was going to take to get from her house to the airport when her husband thought it was going to take 5 minutes longer. Like, everybody loves the feeling of being right. It doesn't matter if it's a big thing or a small thing. Everybody loves the feeling of being right. And nobody likes the feeling of being wrong. So it's just increasing that tolerance and that threshold for being wrong that actually allows you more leeway to be right.
I'd like to be right less, just for the record. Usually the things I'm right about sometimes are the best things, but sometimes they're the not best things. So that's just the nature of like my job and what I get to see in behavior, that I can typically predict things before they happen. So it's really hard on this side of it that there's some things I'm like, I'd really like to be wrong about this situation. I do not think that I am about this situation, but I'd really, really like to be wrong, which leads me into this. And and it's not on our notes, but we talked about it, the difference of an accident and a mistake. Because I think that there's a difference between accidentally doing something without intent and then doing something wrong that wasn't necessarily how you wanted it to end up. Like we've talked about, like, we are going to hurt each other's feelings on accident. But let's just say there was like a tense, heated moment between us that we were tired, we were hungry, and we were stressed out. I could say something that I didn't mean to say, but had a tinge of truth to it that would sting. That wasn't an accident. That was a mistake. That was something that didn't accidentally come out. It doesn't make it not true, right? But like, I could have done better. So when we're talking about like this idea of not being wrong, I think this is this differentiation between, oh, that was an accident, the intent behind it, and a mistake. And like when we were talking about this previously, it's like nobody accidentally sleeps with somebody else. Like there were choices made. Like you didn't accidentally get naked. You didn't accidentally end up in a room together. You didn't, like, body parts just don't accidentally fall on each other. No matter how many ER stories you've heard, things don't get in orifices by accident. I am friends with a lot of ER nurses, and the stories that come out of there was, oh, I'm not sure. I accidentally fell in the shower. No, you didn't. You made a mistake. There's consequences for that mistake. It wasn't an accident. So when the fear of being wrong keeps people from committing to something, how do you see this difference between accidents and mistakes and the safeguards put in people's lives when they're making big decisions, small decisions, or just better boundaries in all of it?
Sure. So I think that mistakes are something that was done with originally and done with intention, but was the consequences of which you did not intend, right? That's a mistake. I dug a hole in the yard so that I could plant a tree, but I accidentally dug it too big and then I stepped it in and broke my ankle, right? That was a mistake that I made by digging it too big, but it had intention. It just had unintended consequences. To me, an accident, and this may be a really fine line, or, I may be splitting hairs here, but to me, an accident is something that you normally do, right? That's not, it's almost like autopilot, and it ends up crossing wires with something else, and you accidentally did something, right? You accidentally overstepped. You accidentally, I don't know, like you accidentally cooked too much food. You accidentally, I don't know. I'm trying to like.
Hold on. I've got one for you.
Okay.
I accidentally sent an email because I didn't proofread it, inviting people for cozy coaching. That was not my intent. I was tired. I was not thorough. It was not, I send a lot of emails during the day, but it was an absolute accident and oversight. There was no intent of me. Thank God I didn't go to very many people. No, cozy coaching, by the way, is not on. It's not on our menu. You can't actually buy that.
Well, see, I actually see that as the other one. I actually see that as a mistake. Yes, because you had the intention of sending the email.
Okay.
And you made the mistake of not proofreading it.
I did make the mistake of not proofreading it.
It wasn't an accident. You wrote the email with it with intention. So you made a mistake in that intention, right? It had unintended consequences because you sent the email without proofreading it, right?
You're right.
But you didn't just like you said, body parts don't fall. You didn't just magically put your fingers on the keyboard and accidentally type in that, right? You made a mistake in the process, and that's okay. I think accidents are more in the moment of that really, I think in like premeditated intention may be a mistake, but accidents are really in the moment of, like a car crash, right? That's an accident, right? I mean, that's literally why we call it an accident. Or like, what I think of is Bob Ross, Happy Little Accidents. That's what
Happy Little Accidents.
Happy Little Accidents. That's what it makes me think. Because even in painting, that's actually a really good example. Even in painting, is like you're doing something and you're just kind of going through the motion, or like you're in the moment of, and you put a color in a place that it wasn't supposed to go, quote unquote, well, that's an accident, right? That wasn't, see what I'm saying? That's something that you were in the moment of. So again, maybe we're splitting hairs a little bit here, but again, I will say, like to Stacy's point, is there is a difference between mistakes made doing things with intention, and the result wasn't what you thought it was going to be. So maybe that was a mistake. Like I said what I needed to say, but the mistake was the way that I said it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that. That happens sometimes over here.
Accidents being, oh shit. Accidents being,
say it.
No,
go ahead.
Accidents being more spur of the moment, like, whoa, that definitely was not supposed to happen like that. And it happened way too quick. That's why Stacy said saying that somebody accidentally slept with somebody else is definitely not an accident.
That's not an accident. No way you're going to sell that to me like that. Mistake? Sure. I'm going to buy that it's a mistake. I'll buy that it's a mistake that has unintended consequences. But I'm going to have a hard pressed time to say that was an accident. Okay. Moving to the next piece that we find important, and it's our podcast, so we get to decide what's important at any given moment.
So now you found important.
That's exactly why you're here. Is really talking about fear setting, and you're so good about describing this better than I do. And I think it's a really important practice and not something that people know much about. So bring the people up to speed on what it is, how you found it, and really how they can learn more about it, because it really impacts how they take aim. Like each of these principles build one upon another. And so this one falls right in line.
Sure. So really what we're talking about here is when you miss the mark, or when you are afraid to pursue something, that's really what this episode is about, right? That's what this conversation is centered around. So the fear setting piece is you are afraid of doing something because you're afraid of making a mistake, right? Or you're afraid an accident's going to happen along the way because that was unintended, whatever the case may be. So fear setting is simply just a little exercise in which you can do on a piece of paper or a couple pieces of paper. And I'm not going to get too far into the specifics of it, but essentially the purpose of it is to outline everything that's going through your mind as worst case scenarios. And then you can literally write down what you could do to prevent that thing, or what you could do to repair that situation and mitigate any damage should that thing actually happen. So it's literally, your sheet of paper, and you've got 3 columns. Over here is what if blank, right? What if I do this, right? What if I go bankrupt? Okay. Well, in the next column is, well, what's the main thing I can do to prevent that? And in the third column is, if I can't prevent it, what's the main thing I can do to repair that? Right. So what this gets down to, and I won't go all the way through that example, but what this gets down to is not everything is completely avoidable. Some things are absolutely avoidable. Some things are like, hey, I don't want to, I don't want to drop a weight on my foot. Okay, well, then it's probably a pretty good idea that you don't lift with weights right now, right? Like, I'm afraid to drop a weight. I don't know. I'm just giving some, silly random example. That's definitely prevention. You can do that. You can prevent that, right? But if you were like, well, I'm definitely going to be lifting weights, so how can I mitigate that? How would I repair that? It's like, well, if I dropped a weight on my foot, worst comes to worst, I'm, down and out, from doing anything leg related for a month, and I can work on my upper body, right? Like you can justify that scenario just a little bit by just walking yourself through what's the worst possible thing, that you could think of, and how would that actually play out? How could you actually make that better? And then that reduces your fear of surrounding the thing, going, okay, well, even my worst possible scenario is really not all that bad. The other thing to think about in this process is what's the benefits of attempting this thing that you're trying to attempt, right? What would be the benefits of just going after it, even if you even if nothing happened, or even if you got a little bit of success out of it. So, for example, like that's a really easy thing to talk about with our business is, it's all not what's the worst that could happen, but what's the benefits of even an attempt? Well, there's a crap ton of benefits at an attempt, right? Not only do we get to be business owners and work with people and understand the inner workings of things so that we understand how things are going on when we spend our money with another business, but partial success means more economic impact, more emotional impact, right? More, industry impact, things like that, even if we just are a little bit successful at what we do. And so that's another thing that you can think about is, well, if I'm so scared of this thing, how do I, number one, dial down those negative emotions? That's what the fear setting piece is. But how do I uptick those positive emotions? That's by looking at what are the possibilities, what are the benefits of an attempt or a possible success. And that's why I say you can't be scared of making mistakes, because that limits your imagination, right? If you were so scared to go do something that your fear overrode your ability to go do it, well, then now you can't even imagine what would it look like if you actually did it well.
I think this takes us back to the beginning of, and if you didn't listen to episode 1, this is the part where you should go back because you didn't the first time and you're going to go do it now. When we talked about the vision board, is that the things that we're telling you, we actually have done. Right. And you would hope that that would be the truth. Like we just didn't show up with his bucket of magic and be like, this is for you, but not for us. This isn't how we actually do things. No, we're taking things that we've actually done and then bringing it to you. So we go back to the vision board and going, okay, what would even partial success look like? If we only ever achieved a quarter of what we put on the vision board, it would still be worth it. Partial success in any arena still would be worth it. And I know one of the things that I had talked about when even we were talking about this podcast is, what's the worst thing that could happen? And I think that it might surprise people about what we think the worst thing might be.
So we decided that the worst thing that could happen was that we would decide not to be friends anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be the unintended fallout of starting a podcast together, starting a business together, coaching people together, that type of thing, just because of the exposure to each other and, just getting tired of being friends, right? Or whatever the case may be. Or maybe it was just some type of like moral disagreement. I don't know. I highly doubt that. But whatever the case may be, that would be the worst thing that could happen. Mm-hmm. So in our fear setting exercise of that, it's like, okay, well, how do we prevent that? Or how do we repair that? How do we mitigate that? And of many answers that it could be, right? Then one of the things that we came down with was, hey, as long as we're staying up on our system of communication, as long as we're staying up on just talking to each other about what's going through our head on a regular basis, which is literally the foundation of any relationship that you want to have, then most things are going to work themselves out. And if it's something that in particular doesn't fix, which is going to fix, that's going to fix, 99% of things. If that in particular doesn't fix or mitigate it, then we can take, the next step to put a roadblock or put an obstacle in the way of ending friendship altogether, right? There's a lot of things that can be overcome with just a little bit of time, a little bit of space, a little bit of room to think and breathe. So, as long as we actually had this conversation yesterday, it was like, we were both getting tired on a multiple hour Zoom call together. And I was like, you know what? I should have just told you that like my head is thinking about 1, 2, and 3 things. And it's really not thinking about what we're talking about right now because it's later in the day and I'm getting fatigued and I'm starting to get, some notifications coming in and things like that. And so it was that just tiny little communication cadence that we had to go, hey, next time, let's take some more breaks in our longer calls. Or if you'll just tell me what's going through your head, we can both decide like, hey, now's not the time to do this particular task. We'll put it on the schedule for a different time and a different day.
And I think that answer may not have been what people expected in our biggest fear of going to business together. Because people are like, what if you lose all this money? Great. You can lose money and make money all day long. Replacing isn't the right word. Recreating like our friendship or even the relationship with our families, that doesn't happen. And so like money is neither here that that's not our core motivation. Like if you guys haven't picked up that yet in why we do business and even how we do business. And so it really, like, not to belabor it more, it is the communication that really makes this as good as it is. Like we are not afraid to have really hard conversations with each other. And so when I see with a lot of people is they're afraid to have conversations with the people that they're in any kind of relationship with. If I say this to this friend, I might lose that friendship. If I say this to my boss, I might lose this friendship. So what happens is people don't actually feel like they have the freedom to express themselves. And the thing that they are afraid of, they actually create. Now, thankfully, and if you guys have listened for, I don't know, this is episode 6, the thing that has been the most challenging things that Justin and I have been handed that had nothing to do with us actually trained us over the last year and a half to be able to have these conversations mostly effortlessly. I won't ever say like they're actually fun, but even for as close as we are still learning each other's communication styles, even more so now, just as proximity and as much time we spend together is learning and being considerate and not taking things super personally. But there is, I mean, the risk, I don't know that there's a lot of risk involved anymore. There's just the safety of being able to do it. So if you're looking at like, okay, how do I make this applicable to me? If you can't mitigate something after you've had fear set and tried to look at it, the best thing you have is a system of communication. And if you don't have that, you really don't have a way to mitigate anything. Am I missing something? Is there another way out of a system of communication that kind of makes this fear a little bit more quiet for people?
From a relationship standpoint?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I was going to add to your statement of, if you don't feel like you can say something, that should be a big indicator to you that you have not built enough relationship capital with whoever you're dealing with. That's the reason why this works. That's the reason why me and Stacey can say almost anything to each other in almost any way, and it still be, although it may be initially a little bit inflammatory, it still be okay at the end of the day, is because we have a lot of relationship capital with each other, because we're constantly making deposits into that account, right? We're constantly saying, I hear you, I see you, let's do it like this. Or what do you think about this? Yep, that sounds good. Let's do it like this, right? What do asking each other's opinion and giving the other opinion and sharing things and all that kind of stuff, right? And so that is what makes you able to ask for favors or give feedback that's, maybe you didn't say it the best way, but you have that room for error. Maybe you did pull a little bit of like maybe you made a little bit of a withdrawal there in that relationship capital. But at the end of the day, the idea is to have so much in there that you're never going to be overdrawing that relationship capital in the terms of, this analogy. And I think a lot of people get into this situation with their bosses, with, kind of semi-close friend, coworker situations, right? Like the people who are kind of at the fringes, and you're like, I never really have invested in this relationship, but I need this person from something, or I'm giving feedback to this person for something or something like that. And it's like, well, how are you going to expect a positive outcome of this and you've never even spent time investing in that relationship, right? So it really comes down to relationship capital, which again is tied in with the communication. So you're going to have to communicate differently with someone who you don't really know that well, as opposed to someone that you've known for a long time and you both have an established trust.
Yeah, I'll add to that. It even showed up yesterday. It showed up this morning. Is that in our tired conversation yesterday, I said something pretty direct, pretty direct and straightforward to Justin. And this morning I was like, was that too much? Was that bossy? And his response to me was, no, it's exactly what I needed. But I'm always going to go back. And if I have that like little tinge of like, hey, check yourself, like that could have been a little bit disrespectful, go back and make sure. Like that's where you know that you have that relationship capital. That I was still like thinking of it from his perspective, like, hey, I could have been on that would have been on accident completely. Um, like, hey, I don't want to treat you like that. I didn't mean to say it like that. And making sure, hey, there's peace on the other side. The other part of the relationship capital, I'll give a primary example. I was thinking about this. Um, you know somebody cares about you if they take you to the airport. If they either take you to the airport or pick you up from the airport, they love you. And here's why. A very close friend of mine, one of my closest friends here, God, I love them, asked me, hey, will you take us to the airport? And not the local airport, like LAX. And hands down, my answer was yes. Like it's a 2.5 hour drive there. It's a 2.5 drive back. For them, my answer was not even a hesitation. I would have changed my schedule. I would have done whatever I needed to do to get them to the airport because they're getting to do something they've been waiting 5 years to do. And like not even a hesitation. If somebody else asked me to take them to the airport, I'd be like, no, I'm sorry. Like, I'm not taking your ass to the airport. But there's so much relational capital invested. Like, I will absolutely do that. And I don't even consider it an inconvenience just because of how much I care. Was there maybe some fear on their part of going, oh my God, are we going to ask Stacy to do this? Her schedule is this and her life is this. And how could we ask her? Like, I could hear the fear in even asking me for the favor. And I was like, dude, I've got you. Like, I've got you. We will go get a Starbucks on the way. I will make this an adventure and it'll be amazing. So, yeah, relationship capital is a big deal. So, how do we wrap this up in knowing that we're going to miss the mark? Like, it's inevitable that we're going to miss the mark and our outcomes at times aren't going to match reality.
So to put a bow on the fear setting thing, if you want to know more about that and how to do that specifically, go Google fear setting by Tim Ferriss. That's FERRISS, I think, 2 R's and 2 S's. Anyway, it doesn't matter if you misspell it. Just type in fear setting and you'll come up on Tim Ferriss. He did a TED talk on it. It's a great exercise. It's not an original idea by us. It's by him. So I want you to go invest your time into learning more about that. But inevitably, when you take aim at something, you are going to miss the mark. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to make errors. That's what this whole conversation is. And so when what has happened in real life does not match what you thought would happen in your head, that is where disappointment sets in. And I hear Commander. I hear Commander.
There's a fire truck going by, and I don't know if you all can hear Commander, but my German Shepherd is literally howling at
that's awesome.
The fire truck going by.
But disappointment is a tool of the enemy. Okay, I'll give it to you like that. Disappointment is what your mind, and frankly, if you want to go into your mind, we'll just call it the devil on your shoulder, is going to try to use to get you to not chase something, right? And so when you have that expectation reality gap and that disappointment or that doubt starts to creep in, another one, then that's when you start to steadily back off that aim, and you don't really care. You say you don't care about it that much, and you just kind of sort of do it, and then eventually you just say fuck it and give it up altogether because you did not treat the process with enough respect to let it become part of who you are, and you missed that mark so many times that you just got down and out on yourself, right? So when that happens, right, when you miss the mark, you have to remember, start with one thing. You either had limited information and you made the best choice you could with that information, or you had enough information but not enough preparation. Okay. You made a mistake. It's like Stacy mistaken on the email. That was lack of preparation because she didn't go back and reread it, right? She knew what she was doing. She just didn't reread it. And so you have to make the best choices you can with the current information, move forward, and the path shows itself to you as you move forward. That's something that I used to think about a lot, is that I don't know what A to Z looks like. And so it's really hard for me to want to start. I'm here to tell you, you do not need to, nor are you going to know what A to Z looks like. But if you know what A to B looks like, then you can go forward, because you're not going to be able to see what D looks like until you get to B, right? And so on and so forth. And so one of the things that Stacy likes to say is, if you're not dead, you can still go, right? If you're not dead, you can still take aim. So how does that show up for you?
There's so much grace required, is that people get discouraged and disheartened. Like, missing the mark and failure is like such a big thing, and that people think it's a death sentence. Like, if you're not dead, something's repairable. You still have work that you get to do, not have to do. Like, failure isn't final unless you quit. And I watch people, so to speak, quit when there's so much left on the table, whether it's like relationally or professionally or personally. And they're like, but I did all these things, because shame is so freaking big, right? I made this mistake. I did this mistake. And they don't want to be wrong again. And so they don't actually live. They're like they kind of just exist. And it's such a sad place to be, because every day you wake up, you are gifted the opportunity to do whatever the next thing is in front of you. Not that it's not hard, not that it even isn't painful, but that you get to. And if you get it wrong again, it's okay. You don't know what you don't know yet. Like, if I look back at the last year of our life, dude, there was so much we didn't know that we didn't know yet. We would have done things differently. We would have done so many things differently. And in the course of the things we got right and the things that we got wrong and the things that we thought we were so right on, that we were so wrong on, all led to this moment. And at any time, we could have been like, no, I'm good. Like, this isn't worth it. We're not going to pursue this, not in friendship, not in business, not professionally. Like, no. And for whatever reason, and Justin and I will tell you, we both don't understand. We understand that this is bigger than us. We also understand, in not using a word frivolously, it's kind of a little bit miraculous. There's no time that we would ever, this doesn't make sense. If you put this relationship on paper, it doesn't make sense. If you put how we got together, it doesn't make sense. The impact we've been able to have doesn't make sense. And we could let all the unknowns and the things that we've gotten wrong stop us for all the things that we don't know. And so you just keep going. Whatever the mistake was, I don't even care what it was. You could have murdered 37 people. Okay, that's an excessive number. I hope you heal from all the things that happened that made you murder 37 people. That you still can be a remarkable human. Like, you're not dead. Every moment is a gift. Like, take it. Take it.
So to kind of put a bow on that, I think it's safe to say that you are granted a chance to go and get a little bit closer to grabbing it is whatever you want every single day. And while some people might say, well, I'm waiting for God's timing, I say God's waiting for you. He's already placed the things in front of you that you need to have to the people and the resources and the opportunities that you need to be able to make this thing a reality. You're just not moving. You're not taking action. Even if it's a small action, you should still be taking action. And you already know all the people you need to know. You know enough information to get you to the next place. And when you need to know something else, you will learn something else. And that is the beauty of mistakes, because they teach you lessons. So improving your relationship with making mistakes and being wrong is the best thing you can do, not on purpose, but for the fact of being able to learn lessons. Because the people who have lived, like people who have gone and made choices, and some of those choices were the wrong choices, they learned their lesson. Now, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me, right? So you make multiple mistakes of the same mistake, Well, that's a problem. We need to pay better attention. But the to get to the bottom of this is being okay with being wrong is really the first step in learning the things that are going to take you farther than you ever thought. It's like Stacey said a year ago, 18 months ago, like we know all the shit we were going to get wrong, but thank God we did, because we wouldn't be as strong as we are now, relationally, business wise, vision wise, if we hadn't made those mistakes, if we hadn't got some of those punches, thrown at us early. And there's still some things we have yet to learn, right? There's still some mistakes we have yet to make, and that's okay, because we understand that while it sucks in the moment, it doesn't feel good, nobody likes it, that ultimately there's going to be some time passed and some perspective gained, and you'll be better for it. I think that's what's important.
I agree. And I'm going to give you guys a real life example really quickly so that you get to watch. And I've never shared like this part of our story publicly. I've made big moves before. And as everybody's watching, like, Stacey, everybody wants to know when I'm moving to Texas. I'd really like to know when I'm moving to Texas too. And some people are like, well, why can't it be next week? Why? Like, I can't wait for you guys to be together. I can't wait for you guys to be in the same space. And here's where this being wrong comes into play. Like, I wouldn't doubt that July is a reasonable estimation that my family would be near Justin's family. What if I'm wrong? I'm starting to pack my house now. Okay. What if it's not September? Okay. What if it's not till October? Okay. The vision is still clear. I'm still taking aim on something. Even if I'm wrong, I'm willing to be wrong. What's the worst thing that happens? I have to unpack a toaster? That my house doesn't look pretty and decorated, but I'm still taking aim in the direction I want to go. But what I found in this taking aim, is everybody wants a concrete answer from me that I don't have yet. And they're not okay that I'm okay releasing this outcome. But to bring this back to something that you guys get to watch play out, because never before has my life been so public, and also taken a big stand. I've made this move. I made this move to California 6 years ago, and it took 3 years to get here. And everybody thought we were crazy the entire time. I was like, nope, here's when I'm moving. Here's the date. And everybody's like, she's batshit crazy. And then it worked out like this. So making this move is actually, Justin's like, this is actually the least risky thing I've ever seen you do. When I was all up in my feels about it, he's like, I'm not actually understanding what's so concerning to you. I've watched you live life. Is that the time and space in between now and when we get there allows that relational equity to grow. It's actually a gift to Justin and I to go from being friends who are coworkers to friends who are business owners, for us to grow our threshold of tolerance with each other before we're actually in the same city. So for those of you who are like, hey, this is going to be amazing and all that, like, the time from where you are to where you want to be, that delay, so to speak, is actually a gift to build the things that you're waiting for. And delays aren't failures. And I think when people take risks at something, they're like, it needs to happen now. And if it's not, I was wrong. No, you might not be wrong. You might just need to wait. And so for those of you who are invested in watching, like, how is she doing this? How is this work out? Like, I know your curiosity is killing you and you want it now. And I actually don't. I'm content to whenever that is, because there's so much character that gets developed in between for us to get more things wrong before the level of, is pressure the right word? Of close proximity puts additional weight on us before we need to have it there.
I agree. It's just establishing the scaffolding of the relationship, just like you would anything, right? Establishing the bones of it before you go whole hog into whatever it is that you're attempting to do, right? You can always dip your toe in the water. So obviously we're past the dipping the toe in the water point, but like you said, we're building the foundation of communication cadences, what we would prefer to say and how we would prefer to hear it, and what time of the day we would prefer to get information, right? We've shared all those things before, and it's like, okay, this is why this makes sense. So hopefully there's a lot of value that you got out of this podcast. And if you did, please let us know on social media or any other way that you have to contact us, what you took away from it, what was cool to you. As always, like Stacy said, we're not doctors. We don't play one on the internet, or therapists. We don't play those on the internet either. But we can help you get where you want to go if you're looking for positive health outcomes. So if you want to work with either one of us, you can, again, shoot us a message on social media, or follow the link in our Instagram profiles, and that will tell you what you need to know. But until then, we will talk soon.